Hello and welcome to week 7. Couple things to go over in this video, mainly having to do with developing. I've gone over and graded all Project 1s. So first of all, please go and check that you have a grade on Project 1. And if you don't have a grade, you likely have a comment. Everyone has a comment, meaning that if everything went well with Project 1, I commented on your images. Now I'm going to do the same, or sort of working my way through Project 2. If you don't have if you don't have a grade, it means there was an issue of some sort. And I specified what that issue was. Most people who developed and went through the 10 images for line and 10 images for shape, overall pretty good job. I'm going to sort of actually have a video of some good examples I'm going to talk about and critique those images in a different video. Some things I want to go over and why we're sort of looking at Lightroom here, having to do with developing, and I mentioned these issues in specific instances, again in these comments on D2L, have to do with developing. The idea behind developing is really, in short, not to sort of go crazy with the adjustments that we can potentially do over here in Lightroom, but to simply optimize. I think I've talked about this before when we talk about things like white balance, but I want to sort of reiterate a few things. Basically a list of things I don't want. At this point I don't want black and white images. Let's keep these in color. I don't want you to go crazy with the contrast filter. A lot of people sort of found the contrast filter and went a little nutty with it. Let's go down here. If I can get that. Saturation. Sort of went crazy with saturation. These are all things that I think are sort of cheap ways to sort of get at an image that has really saturated color, really blown out color. We don't necessarily want that. Okay, so watch your contrast and saturation. Don't be sort of messing with these sliders over here until we get to some more. Probably till we get to Photoshop and do some compositing. Right now we simply want to optimize an image. Okay, so I've actually brought up this image. I'm going to sort of go over what I mean by that again, and also add a few things to that. Last but not least, I can't reiterate enough, is the sort of exporting issue. I went over that again in the video last week or the week before, sort of the quality. Make sure you're exporting to a quality of 60 and a size of 640 by 480 when you hand in the large groups. Project 3 was due tonight, actually, here. When you hand in your smaller groups next week, again for Project 3, make sure you're exporting at a quality of 100 and a size of 1200 by 800. I'm going to go over that again here at the end of this video. Okay, so to sort of reintroduce again what this idea of optimizing means. Okay, first thing I want to do is sort of go over here and look at my histogram. My histogram over here sort of indicates that most of my pixels are on the left hand side. If I roll over these areas, you'll see that this little word pops up, black shadows. Okay, these are sort of the dark portions of the image. If I go over here, you see something that says whites and highlights. You can see, my histogram, and these are sort of mountains of pixels, that there's really no pixels over on the right hand side here. What that indicates is this image is too dark, and I need to spread that out. So we've gone over this before. What I'm going to do is come over here, and again I'm on my basic development panel, and I'm going to grab, while holding my Option key down, those of you on a PC, I believe that's going to be your Alt key, and I'm going to pull this over, and you start to see those pixels sort of appear. You can also see, and I'm not going to point to it, just talk about it, you can see it, I'll kind of go wonky over here. On the left hand side, where my navigator is, it's sort of indicating what's happening there. So I'm going to pull this over until I start to see some green pixels appear and let go. I'm going to do the same with the black slider. I don't have to go as far over the left hand side because I have plenty of darker pixels. Okay, so that's a quick sort of white balance adjustment or exposure adjustment. This toggle, which is the sort of YY toggle, it says sort of cycles before and after views right there. Here's our original. Here's what we're working with at this point. Okay, so that's a simple white balance adjustment. Next thing I'm going to do, and these should be two fairly new things. I'm going to sort of go back here. Have to do with this area right here. Okay, these are some tools that we have in Lightroom. Unlike Photoshop, we have pretty sort of limited amount of tools, and that's actually a good thing in relation to Lightroom and editing. Photoshop, generally speaking, has sort of a mountain of tools, and we want to sort of simplify editing and simplify optimizing, and these tools are quite powerful despite the fact that there aren't many of them. Okay, first one I'm going to work on is the graduated filter. What the graduated filter does is it allows for you to gradate, and you'll see what that means, an adjustment, and we're going to make a simple adjustment across an image. I'm looking at this image right here, and the two goals that I have with this image, I think this area up here is a little too hot and bright. It's taking away from what I sort of picture the subject matter to be down in the left hand corner, which is this leaf. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this filter, it's the graduated filter. I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard, and I'm going to pull a filter down. Okay, I'm going to pull it right about here. Okay, now what this is sort of showing us is what's called a pinpoint or an edit pin. Okay, so I'm going to click on this thing, and I'm going to sort of click away from it by choosing another tool over here. And what you'll see is that when I sort of click on and off of this thing, I can sort of activate that pin. Basically what this is stating is that from up here on the top to down here on the bottom, we're gradating an adjustment. Now I'm going to do a very sort of dramatic adjustment, so it sort of shows you what's going on here. Okay, you'll see, I'll go dark, I'll go light, you'll see that along that graduated area or gradated area, we're making an adjustment. I'm using the exposure, which is a very sort of simple slider, to simply sort of very faintly sort of darken that top area. Okay, now how we can sort of see what's happening here is by hitting done, and then I'm going to cycle between that before and after. Okay, here's our first image, here's our image with that filter on it. I feel pretty good about that. I've sort of lightened that, I've sort of alleviated that hot spot. Okay, I'm going to cycle back, and I'm going to do one more adjustment here. Okay, and I'm going to do that by sort of zooming in on this leaf area. I'm going to use the navigator over here. You'll see that the navigator allows us to sort of choose a particular area. Okay, and I'm going to use this adjustment brush. Okay, the adjustment brush is a very, very simple sort of paintbrush of sorts that allows us to sort of paint, and you probably see where I'm going with this, paint this sort of green leaf area. What I want to do is sort of bring back some of the green in this, and then pump up the saturation just a tiny bit to sort of bring that color out a little bit. Okay, now in order to sort of see what we're doing, we need to sort of click this little button down here. It says Show Selected Mask Overlay. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to paint. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do a tremendous job on this leaf. I'm just going to sort of paint over it. And you'll notice that just like when we use that graduated filter, we get one of these what's called edit pins. So I'm going to, as long as that has that black dot on it, it means it's activated, and that whatever I do now will sort of basically add to that pin. Okay, so we call those edit pins. Excuse me. Now, when I have that edit pin selected like that, I can go down here and I can change some things. I can change what's called the feather. Okay, and that basically allows the adjustment to happen over a smaller period of, or sorry, a greater amount of pixels, and I can affect what's called the flow. That basically has to do with how much or how intense that this mask overlay is going to sort of be affect that area. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deselect that. Okay, and just the show selected mask overlay, I still have the pin activated, and you'll see now that when I sort of mess with this exposure, I'm sort of affecting that particular area. Okay, now you can see that as I sort of pull this forward, I get this really crisp edge. Okay, and I sort of did that on purpose because I'm going to actually redo this. That has to do with the feather. It is happening sort of very drastically along that edge. I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit actually delete. Oop, get a cute little graphic there, and I'm going to go down and before I sort of paint this on, I'm going to pump the feather up quite a bit. I'm going to hit show mask overlay, and I'm going to paint. Okay, you might notice that edge, the red edge, oops, I went too far there, is a little softer. Okay. Now, just a second ago, I sort of went over the edge too much. Okay, and I'm going to sort of do that on purpose right here. If you paint an area that you don't necessarily want to, which is right there and right there, I'm going to hold down Option on my keyboard, and I'm going to sort of unpaint some areas. You can see that those red areas are going away. Okay. Whoops. Didn't get that area. Alright. Now I'm going to turn this off. Show selected overlay. All I'm looking to do on this image is sort of bring back some of the exposure, meaning I'm going to darken that a bit. And then I'm just going to pump up the saturation. See, if I go super far, that's way too green. I'm going to just pump up the saturation of that green a little bit. Okay? I'm going to hit done. And I'm going to cycle back. Okay? So I'm going to see the difference here between my original leaf and this leaf. First of all, I have much better contrast, much better balance here in the background, and now I've brought back some of the detail in this leaf that I lost when I made that white balance. It got a little too bright there. Okay. Now, while I have a little time here, because I only have about 1.5 minutes left in the video, let's imagine that we're exporting. This should be review, but this is a problem on many of the images. I'm going to go to export PDF. Export PDF. It's coming. And when I get the dialog box up here, in any moment there, this is the important spot. Okay, when you export the larger groups, meaning your 50 or 100 images, this should be set at 60, and this should be set at 640 by 480. When you hand in your final images, your 8, 10, whatever images it is, this should be at 100, and this should be at 1200 by 800. I don't want to see any images outside of the realm of that in Project 3. Okay, so that's it for this video. We're going to have one more video. I'm going to talk about some good examples from Project 1.